Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it is time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, and that is Bobby N.
I'm Bob. I'm an alcoholic. I'm also addicted to anything you can do more than once, so if there's any addicts in the room, you're not alone. I just love watching the arrivals on the red carpet, man. Nice. Let's see. One of the signs that they have on the wall, you know, like I used to stay sober on the signs they had on the wall, you know, like live and let live. That sort of means mind your own business, you know, and let go and let God, you know, means you're not going to get anywhere with your genius. And easy does it, you know. It's like code for just relax and let this program get you, you know. The program will work you. Like a wave will work a surfer, you know, it'll work you. And exit, that's not a good sign, don't look at that one. No smoking is a good one. First things first, though, and so I have to thank Jeffrey for inviting me to come over here tonight and participate in my own recovery. So I'm one of those sickening people that just loves Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, not because it saved my life, but because it's a mood changer, you know, and a personality changer and a life changer, and it's like beyond acid, you know. This program's beyond acid. Be careful what you do in here, you know, because this is going to change your whole act, you know, if you're not careful. If you're like one of those alcoholic addicts of my type, you know, I had no intention of coming to AA. I mean, I loved what, Allison? Yeah, I loved what you said about knowing exactly where to go when the heat got turned on. I didn't have a clue, you know. I had no intention of coming to, I'm from Akron, okay? That's all you need to know, really, you know. And my whole life, I was ashamed of that, you know, until I got to this program, and then, you know, it was the flip side. It was like, I'm from Akron, you know. Like that, you know, would be some, that I'd have a clue from that. But in any case, there I was, you know, in West Hollywood in my luxury pad on Salminio Memorial Alley there. And I was smoking opiated hash and drinking champagne with these two girls that I knew. And the sheriff was pounding on my windowsill saying, you know, if you don't calm it down in there, we are going to have to take you down. And 24 hours later, I was a clean and sober member of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't see it coming. I had no clue. I didn't have the faintest desire to get sober, or I had a big desire for my life to change. You know, I kind of wished that NASA would invent some kind of magic space medicine that I could, you know, boot once a day and, you know, turn me into the human that I dreamed that I was, you know. you know, and but, you know, I actually, you know, wished that I could find a guru. You know, some of my friends, you know, some of my friends in show business got born again, you know, and I sort of wished that I could do that, you know, but like I said, I'm from Akron, Ohio, so I grew up with that stuff, you know, and it didn't look like I had a chance, you know, and I accidentally went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the reason I did was I was trying to hustle this woman into buying a few drawings I had. And it made me nervous to kind of show her the drawings, you know, because I hadn't done that in a number of years. I'd taken these little paper-thin compromises. You know, I was prided myself on being this badass, you know, 130 pounds of dynamite, you know what I mean? Didn't need to carry a gun when I was packing that, you know. And, you know, I actually looked at a lot of the wrong ends of guns and stuff like that. But, you know, I guess the reason nobody, did me was because they just thought it's not worth the beef, you know. This cat's going to do himself before too long, and let's, you know, let's look the other way. So I had, made all these paper-thin compromises in my life, and when I was a little hillbilly kid, you know, I left Ohio and I went to art school in Boston, and all I ever wanted to do in my life was learn how to build a painting, you know, a real painting, you know, not a covered bridge with a sad-eyed clown at the end or something, but, you know, like a real picture, you know, that would be heavy duty, you know, and so I had sacrificed a lot of stuff in my life to go that direction, you know. I'd done a lot of shitty gigs, you know, in order to just be a painter. But I'd made these little paper-thin compromises, you know. And that's how, I got into performing, you know, because I was willing to paint houses or perform, you know, just so I could be a painter. And I'd made these little paper-thin compromises in my life, and they'd become like a ream-sized wedge. And it had wedged me away from going that direction. I was way the hell over here. And I was doing all kinds of stuff, you know, to maintain this lifestyle that I was fantasizing that I was living. You know, basically, I was intoxicated 24/7. You know, for 25 years, unless I was prevented from doing so by being locked up or locked down or something. I put chemicals in my body from the age of 13 on, because why wouldn't you? You know, if you're an alcoholic of my type and you find something that works, I mean, you go with it. You know, I had no shame about being an alcoholic. You know, I knew I was an alcoholic. You know, the chief naval surgeon at the Chelsea Naval Base in Boston, you know, pronounced me unfit to handle high explosives. You know, and I was pretty happy about that. You know, that meant I didn't have to be in the Navy or any other service. You know, I wasn't one of those kind of guys that found a way into the French Foreign Legion or anything. You know, I was like, yeah, okay, let's go home and get high, and that's what I did, man. I mean, that was the rhythm of my life. It's like, you know, I don't know if there's any ex-cigarette smokers here, but, you know, cigarette smoking becomes the rhythm of your life. Everything is about cigarettes. Sometimes you wake up at night, smoke a cigarette. You know, sometimes you have to go out in the cold, smoke a cigarette. Out in the rain, smoke a cigarette. I mean, I don't see how people can smoke these days, man. In the old days, you know, these rooms used to be full of, you know, smoke. You know, alcoholics are the only kind of people who turn a church into a whorehouse. You know? Come right in, smoke it up, you know, hit on everybody you see, you know, and go home frustrated, you know, just like going to a whorehouse. And I don't see how people do it now, man, because you can't smoke anywhere, you know, and it also costs as much as dope. You know, there's this guy, Bill Burroughs, he wrote these books, you know, William S. Burroughs. He wrote these books, and he wrote this sort of like hipster junkie science fiction, and one of the things that, in The Soft Machine, I think it was, where he predicted that the government would become the dope dealers of the future. Duh. Just follow the money, kids. There's people, they get paid millions of dollars a year to think up cute ways, to make me think that I should pour flammable liquid down my neck. You know what I mean? I drank gallons of that swill. Little puppies ever came over to my house and played the guitar. No models came and took me out on a catamaran. That's not the way it worked for me, And yet when I turn on the television to watch a ball game or something, there they are. They're pitching that piss at me, They make it look so good, too. And now they advertise liquor on television. And every once in a while I think to myself, forget the Dodgers. What does Zima taste like? And I realize, hey, man, somebody just scored. They scored on my, disease. So, I think about drinking. I've been sober since December 15th, 1977. I think about drinking. I just don't act on it. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous did. It gave me the choice of acting on my thoughts. I hear about new drugs, OxyContin. Ooh. I wonder what OxyContin is like. It kind of sounds like I should like it. You know what I mean? Vioxx. Deadly. It's deadly, this disease. It's deadly. It'll wait 25, 30 years for you. Just until you think you don't need to go to meetings. You don't need to be humble. It make you say something so fucking stupid, man, it'll take you right off the air. Late doing it, too. So anyway, I had this lady over to my house. I was trying to show her these drawings that I had. I'd just come back from Paris. I'd been working on a film there and was accidentally getting drunk every night. And I wasn't doing any hard drugs. I was taking a little vitamin V, or Valium for my nerves, and a little Dalmane to get to sleep. But I wasn't smoking any non-habit-forming herb. And I'd had a little tiny heroin slip, while I was there. But it was just a couple of lines, at a disco or something, and it just made me angry. I didn't really. It's so good that it made me angry. What I'm trying to tell you is that I was clean, and so we were working on this movie, and they were saying to this guy who will remain nameless, who was a pretty destroyed kind of actor, and they were suggesting that maybe we didn't want to be doing gags on, stunts in the rain in a railroad yard in the middle of the night drunk. It wasn't safe. And we were saying, what are you talking about? We're not drunk, you assholes. And so they said, maybe we should send you people away. And, like I said, I was chasing the checks and stuff at that point. So I decided, you know what? I don't know what this cat's going to do, but I'm going to get my act together. And, I'm just not going to drink then for the next 2 weeks. And the next day I got up, and you know what? I had a 5:30 pickup, and got in the car, went to the set, was there all day, didn't drink all day, didn't drink at lunch, didn't drink at night, went home, couldn't sleep. You know, next day, didn't have any wine at dinner, couldn't sleep. Next day I got up, didn't have any wine or didn't have anything in the morning. Had a beer, I think, at lunch, you know, and some wine at dinner. And next day, I had a little wine at lunch and quite a lot of wine at dinner. Got accidentally drunk again. We're hanging out in this showbiz restaurant in Pigalle. And accidentally got drunk, and the next day I was having cognac with the driver in the cafe with my breakfast coffee, you know. And I came home that night and I got really drunk at dinner, and I went back to my hotel and I sat there and I thought, you know what? This is a drag, man. You know, because I was so paranoid and weirded out that I was like trying to catch those dudes that were following me and stuff. And my cocaine connection in Paris was this fantastic, one of Madame Claude's girls, and she was fantastic. She flew around Paris on a motorcycle wearing cowboy boots and a leather jacket, and she was like this $1,500 a dinner date kind of working girl, and I couldn't find her, and so then I ran into this French producer I knew, and he said, you know, she was murdered, and I said, oh my God, you know, where? And she said she was murdered in Yemen. You know, she went down there with another girl, a couple of girls, to see the head of the Air Forces. They found her all chopped up in the desert, and they identified her with her tattoos, you know. So I thought, well, that's why they're following me. You know, see, like, we're alcoholics, right? Right away, I make it all about me. It's not that she's perished, you know. It's that's why they're following me, you know. And that's called self-centered, you know. And when you're as paranoid as I was, that's called self-centered fear, like it talks about in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And like it talks about there, like fear runs like a corrosive thread through our lives, comes in 100 forms. And the way I was dealing with my fear is that I was going into bars in Pigalle and going up to like French legionnaires on leave and saying, how do you tie that scarf then, Frenchie? And because I knew I was this wimp, you know, but like I just was like proving that I wasn't. And I would come home to my hotel and I would look in the closets and I would look under the bed and I would look in the drawers, you know, like where the tape recorders were or something. And I was relatively nuts. And so I went to my hotel room, I sat on the bed, and the reason I'm telling you this long, boring story, you know, is because this is where it happened. I went and sat down, poured myself a tumbler full of red wine, and said, I'm not going to try to go to sleep until I figure this out. You know, I cannot live being in a constant state of paranoid fear. You know, I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm going to get a couple of Dobermans, maybe a MAC-10 and a bodyguard, or maybe some barbed wire or something. You know, I'm not going to live this way. And I sat down and I started to, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy, when I wake up in the morning, I like to wake up and be going at full speed, you know, which is why I was looking for coke. So I sat there, you know, and it occurred to me that when I was 13 years old, I went to a friend's house whose parents were having a party. And it was down the road a ways from me. And they had some money, this family. They were having an outdoor party. And I'd been invited to it. So I slid over there. This is a long time ago, kids. You know, I shot over there in my blue suede shoes and my ducktail haircut. And I had a Chesterfield in my hand. And the guy's father met me there. My friend's father met me and said, would you care for a drink, Robert? And I think he was like, you know, making fun of me. But I became an alcoholic on the spot. and said, yeah. And he said, what would you like to have? And I didn't know. I didn't come from a family that drank. You know, the only people that drank around my family were, I had an uncle who was in the Ringling Brothers show. And he was a clown. You know, when the circus would come through town, all the clowns would come over, you know. They'd all make our faces up with all makeup shit and tell us we could invent our faces. And they were knocking back a few pops, you know, and they were having a ball, you know, eating some, you know, home-cooked food and, like, hanging out with the kiddies and, like, taking us backstage at the circus and showing us, you know, how to shave an elephant and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was, like, big time for Akron, you know what I mean? So I didn't know what to order, but I have, you know, as an alcoholic junkie, you know, we have this keen animal cunning. And so when he said, what would you care to drink? I said, whatever you're having, sir. And he said, George, make the boy a vodka and tonic. And so I drank the vodka and tonic in a little plastic glass, you know, and Jesus, it tastes like bad lemonade or something. I'd never had a taste of tonic water in my life, you know. And I thought, Jesus, this is called drinking? You better give me another one of those, because it went down so fast. And the second one went down and kind of made me thirsty, you know, like quinine water does. And I said, wow, you better give me another one of those. And I don't know if the bartender was having me on or if, like, I just, like, was susceptible, but, you know, someplace right about in there, you know, I've been, yes. This life is going to be fine. And I became Frank Sinatra III, and I was chatting up the ladies until I got slapped, you know. And the laughter stopped, you know, and I felt like everybody was looking at me, and I was hideously embarrassed, and I realized, uh-oh, they probably spotted the ducktail haircut and the suede shoes, and that I'm an asshole. You know, and this is why I'm telling you this story. My deal was, to solve that dilemma, I went back to the bar for more giggle water. And that's what I did for 25 years. I tried to become Frank Sinatra III again, and it just didn't happen. You know, it was that first rush that we all get, the first fix, whatever it is. Might happen to you under the covers, might happen with a cookie, might happen with, you know, like some weed, or might happen with the steel, it might happen with the drink, you know, whatever that happens that makes you realize I can handle this life. I'm going to be able to handle this shit. You know, you people are going to work for me now. You know, this is my band, you know. And, man, you know, I never put down one drug. I just piggybacked them. You know, I'm one of those people that shoots dope when I'm drunk and, you know, drinks when I'm nodding. You know, I'm just one of those people. And, you know, years later, I went to art school in Boston, and I fell in with a bunch of people that robbed drugstores. They taught me how to shoot dope, and, you know, and I just, you know, I just did it. And I kept going further and further away from what I wanted to do, and it ended up with me trying to hustle this woman to buy some drawings. And, you know, I said, would you like a drink? And she said, no, thank you. And she had that look on her face, you know, with all those teeth and shit. And I said, it's very good wine. Are you sure you wouldn't like a glass of wine? She said, no, thank you very much. And I said, what's the problem? You an alcoholic? And she said, yes, I am. And I said, well, now I want to be slick. So I go, well, do you go to those meetings? She said, yes, I do. I go, do you go to the ones where, like, the record producers go and show business people and stuff? And she says, yes. Would you like to go sometime? And I said, yeah, why not? You know, I mean, I thought she would, when are you going? You know, I thought she was going to say, well, we go in the spring. And on the 4th of July. And she said, in about 20 minutes, and I'll drive. And she, I started to say no, and then I remembered I told her I was free for dinner in case I needed to sink the hook, you know. And then a thought occurred to me, you know, like it had in Paris. I didn't want to live in that kind of fear. Why would I be afraid of an AA meeting? I've been to like dozens of bean suppers in church basements and stuff, you know. Just go in there, you sing a few sacred songs, eat a little bad potato salad, eat a little baked beans, and you know, like. And so I like got in her car. First, I went next door to my ballerina girlfriend's place and said, let me borrow a scarf. And she said, you know, I don't know why. And she said, why? I was pissed at her because she'd stolen the last of my Coke. And she said, where are you going? I said, you'll find out. You know, couldn't have been more hateful. And I got in this lady's car and she said, would you mind if we stopped and got something to drink? And in those days along Sunset Boulevard, you used to have a lot of nature food shops, you know. So she pulled over and got a big Slurpee-sized container of carrot juice. And I thought, I've been captured by the sunbeams for Jesus, man. This is all over. And she drove so bad out Sunset Boulevard, out here to Bundy in San Vicente. And I went into this room, and there was the meeting was almost over. And it was a perfect 12-step call my Eskimo made on me, because the meeting was almost over, and they said there's a regular meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous here at 8:30 if anybody would care to stay. And so when she said, are you ready to go to dinner now? And I said, no, let's stay and see what a real meeting of AA is about. And this little 62-year-old man got up, and he had this checkered jacket, and his belt matched his loafers, a little pencil-thin mustache and wavy gray hair. And he started telling all these lies. You know, he'd been on a Broadway and Hell's a-Poppin'. He'd written for Paul Winchell. You know, he'd been a wing walker. He'd been a ski jump champion. He'd been married to a movie star. You know, he was just a lying little shit. You know what I mean? And later, after he became my sponsor, I saw pictures of all that stuff, and it turned out to be true. But he was like a maniac, you know, and where he got me was, he said, and I never felt completely dressed when I left my house unless I had a pocket full of Benzedrine tablets. And I thought, shit, you know, that was my first Jones when I was in art school in Boston. He said, get these bennies from these kids, you know, like they were robbing drugstores. And I used to have one on my tongue all the time, big old fat white cross bennies. You know, and I thought, damn, you know. And I turned to Molly. I started to say, who set this up? And I realized, you're not all extras in my movie, you know. And I realized I was really crazy. I mean, I really, really thought it was a setup. You know, I thought there were 200 people doing an intervention on Bad Bob. And I listened to this cat, and afterwards I went up and I said, thank you for making me laugh. I haven't laughed in years. And he said, he talked about, you know, he stole a crocodile from the Central Park Zoo, and he put it in his hotel bathtub, and the maid saw it and almost fainted. And, you know, and he jumped out of the hotel window and tried to commit suicide, and he landed. They were at a construction site next door, and he fell into the sand pile, you know, and just kind of stuff like that, you know. And afterwards I thanked him for making me laugh, and he said, do you have any, he put his hand in his pocket, he said, do you have any money, kid? I said, yeah, I had $8,500 in my boot in case I needed to buy something on the way home. And in 1977, it was a lot of money, you know? And I said, yeah, why? And he said, I'm going to buy you a fixer bottle because you're killing yourself and I don't think we can help you here. And I thought, well, you jive, motherfucker, you know? After all that sunbeam stuff, you know, and I started to leave, man. He grabbed me and he said, let me tell you something, and this is what I want you to hear. If you can go 24 hours without a drink or a pill or a fix or a tuck or a snort or a rub or a blow or whatever you're doing, you're a success no matter what any son of a bitch has to say about you, period. If you're an alcoholic, a drug addict of my type, and you can go 24 hours without a drink or a fix, you're a success, no matter what anybody else has to say about you. And see, one of the benefits of long-term sobriety is that I don't care what you think of me. I couldn't care less what you think of me. You have to love me or you'll use. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card. But mainly, I don't care what you think about me. That's not my business. My business is what I think about you. You know, and I've learned to love everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I asked my sponsor, one day I said, I love you, Billy. He said, you don't love anybody. You don't know the first thing about love. You think love takes place in the back seat of your car. And I thought, how does he know about that shit? He said, I want you to love everybody in this room. I said, I don't like these people. He said, I didn't ask you to like them. I asked you to love them. I said, well, how can I love them if I don't like them? He said, you see, you stupid shit, you don't know anything about love. He said, how many of these people in this room do you want to see die from drugs and alcohol? And I could honestly say, I don't want to see any of you die from drugs and alcohol. I've seen enough of it. And he said, well, maybe that means you don't mean them any harm. Why don't you take that home and think about it? Maybe that's a starting point for you to come up with a meaning of the word love for you. And the next night, I was at a meeting that he helped start, 2+2 down here on Westwood Boulevard. And there was a broken stained glass window. And in those days, it had wood floors, wooden pews, and lots of smoke damage on the walls and a broken pane in the window. And I thought, why don't these alcoholics fix this church window if they're so, you know, man, I'm like taking everybody's inventory. Because that's what we do when we're new around here, you know? Where's the money go? They collected a lot of money in this room. Who's going to Laughlin with that money, you know? For some of that non-habit forming video poker. No laughing. And that's, the stained glass window said, God is love. And I thought, wow. Could the idea of God be that I don't want to see my brothers and sisters die from drugs and alcohol anymore? Could that be? That's a simplistic theological position to take. But you know what? It enabled me to read the literature. And whenever it mentioned the word God, instead of like floundering around with the image of some cranky old man with a gray beard who's going to smite me if I touch myself in the shower, you know, I was able to get this idea, you know, that maybe God is love, and maybe love is like not wanting to see you die from drugs and alcohol. See, if you're an alcoholic of my type, I don't even know how to feed myself on the square. That's my deal with God. I'm the kind of alcoholic that makes deals with God. All right, mother, if you exist, let's see you stop me from taking these Percodans. You know? And next thing I knew, it was the next day. You know, and I asked my friend Frank the junkie, you know. I was telling him the story. He goes, what'd you do with the Percodans? I said, they're safe, Frank. You're not getting them. He said, did you take them? I said, no. He said, you could consider your prayer was answered if you weren't so stupid. That's the way I was turned on to AA when I was new. And, you know, I'm going to do the steps real quick. Do I have 2 minutes to do it? Yeah. If you ever wanted to die from what drugs and alcohol did to your life, or have your blood changed by Keith Richards' doctor, or just go to sleep for 90 days and wake up a new man and woman, that's the first step, paramedic style. If you ever decide you'd stick around in case you got one more check, you know, or your PO died, or, you know, somebody let you off the hook, you know, some other way, that's the second step. That's admitting that, you know, you're not driving it, you can't control it, but, you know, maybe something else is happening. If you ever came to your second meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous without having your arm twisted by a lover or a friend or family member or the sheriff or, you know, whatever, the court, if you've ever come back to your second meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, you've taken the third step in the paramedic way. You know? because something's going on in these rooms. You know, why else would this many people be this quiet with a raving lunatic at the podium, you know, on a Friday night? Date night, USA. And the fourth step, you know, it's just a shit list. You know, you could just get a brand new legal pad and a brand new pen and write on it, God guide my pen, I hate my mother because. You know, or my father, or whoever you're hating at the moment, you know, and just run the string down and make the shit list. And then, you know, even the book says, you know, you don't have to, you know, you could hire a wino to listen to it. It says right in the book, it says you could take this step with step 5 with a stranger. I don't say anything about it. It says if you're like, you know, on the tip, you might want to do it with your sponsor or somebody. Somebody knows what you're talking about. But it doesn't say you can't, you have to. And then the 6th step, you know, you can't do anything about that one. You have to become willing. That's not your time at all. That might take years, man. You know, because it turns out that these steps there's a good and a bad thing going on here. The bad news is these steps are designed to get us to do precisely what we're never, ever intending to do. And the good news is if you make even a pencil neck attempt, you know, at following these steps, I don't believe in taking them, you know. You take drugs. You could follow these steps. I don't believe in working them either. I don't like that word, you know. But if you follow these steps, because this program is what, if you want what we have, and you're willing to go to any lengths to get it, this is what we did. If you're willing to follow these steps, the fear will go away. You know, if you just make the tiniest attempt at these steps, that hideous fear will go away. And if you stay sober for long enough, the self-loathing will start to go away. I believe that this is a disease of loneliness based on self-loathing and self-centered fear. And basically, you know, my dick's too short and the train already left the station. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to get the pony for Christmas again this year. That's the story of my tragic, tragic alcoholic life. You know, last year, you know, I got up in the morning, I thought I was like, you know, Kelly Slater. And I put on a pair of shorts and I slid over to St. John's, you know. And a couple hours later, I was up in this room, you know. And, you know, not long after that, they like put a skill saw in there and zipped it open, took all the pieces, laid them around the room, you know, did a little rewiring shit, put it all back together. You know, and did this little triple bypass, you know. And after it was over, you know, they said, you can have any drugs you want. And I had always had a whole card. I gave up my suicide whole card, okay? Because suicide is a geographic, and B, for people who are brave, you know. If I can't find a basement window to jump out of, I'm not trying to try suicide, okay? That's just the kind of wimp I am, you know. And that was my whole card. I gave that up. But my other whole card was, if I'm ever severely damaged, I will try opiates again, because I heard everybody in NA talking about like, well, they'll work. You know, alcohol make you puke on your new shoes, but dope, they'll make you puke and love it, you know. And I tried this, and the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous was, after almost 30 years of sobriety, I hated everything I was given. I hated it. I hated it. And I never thought I would be relieved from that little secret hole card, you know. This is a fantastic ride, man. You know, it's an adventure, you know, like you spoke about it, you know. Cindy cruised me once when I was brand new. She said, if you get high, you know what you're going to do, you know what you're going to say, you know what you're going to want to do, where you're going to go. And she cruised me up and down, stopped at my belt buckle and said, if you stay sober, you don't know what's going to happen, you know. She wasn't having nothing to do with me anyway, but she, you know, she said, you know, and I thought you were an adventurer. You know, I thought you were an adventurer. And it got me. You know what I mean? I stayed sober one more day just to ride this adventure out. I want to thank Jeffrey again, and thank you all for being very patient listening.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.